stuff up and going. There we go. All right, so we're going to go through Job chapters 17 to 19 tonight. I don't have as much comments on this stuff tonight. There's a few things that we'll point out, but it's overall pretty straightforward until chapter 19, and then chapter 19 is really good, especially the end of it there. But chapter 17, so remember Job was addressing his friends prior to this in chapter 16. Now he's praying to God. So this is, again, the pattern of Job. Job will address the accusations of his friends, and then he turns to God. And then his friends accuse him more, and then he addresses those, and then he turns to God again. So every time, you'll see Job, the times where Job is speaking, it's usually like 2 chapters at a time. And then the times where his friends are speaking, usually it's like 1 chapter. And so that we see that pattern over and over. I find it really interesting that Job gives short answers to his friends and then immediately turns back to his praying to God. It's like he doesn't want to waste time on addressing his friends, which I think is a really good thing. So he has all these people. I mean, I call them his friends, but they're hardly friends here at this point. But he doesn't want to waste time on that. He knows who's really going to help him, and so he's he addresses what they say and then moves on from it. And so now he's going to plead for relief from God. So in his prayer, he's now just asking God for relief. And the other thing we'll see with the character of Job, not just the book of Job, but he's on this roller coaster. He's begging God. He's upset. He stops just short of cursing God, which is kind of the whole point of Job. But and then he'll turn back later and he'll say something really beautiful about God and how much faith he still has in God. And so this is no different. So chapter 17 is kind of the complaining part of this. Chapter 19, he concludes it with just a really beautiful statement, and I'm sure the verse you will recognize when I get to it. Job chapter 17, starting off here, it says in verse 1 and 2, this is kind of the setup to this. So this is the state that he is in. Before he starts asking God, he tells him the state that he's in, right? My spirit is broken. My days are extinguished. Oh, here. The grave is ready for me. So he's like, I'm just at the point of dying. Like, that's how far this has gone. And then it says, are not mockers with me? And does not my eye dwell on their provocation? So these friends, so-called friends, now this is part of his suffering, is these mockers. So these friends that he had asked to come alongside him to pray to God with him, they're instead mocking him. And so this is part of his suffering here. And then it says, and does not my eye dwell in their provocation? It's like, I can't even look away from them. It is taking all of my focus, is what he's saying. So then he starts his pleading to God here. In verse 3, or starting in verse 3 here, it says, now put down a pledge for me with yourself. So he's praying to God. Now put down a pledge for me with yourself, right? That's starting his asking of God. Who is he who will shake hands with me? This is one of the things that Job is going to get into. So because of his condition, physically, it's to the point where people won't even go near him. Right? And he's going to repeat this over and over in a bunch of different ways. But he is in it because of his circumstances. People are looking at him as a sinner and wicked. Okay. So it's not even just that, if you see someone that has sores all over him, you might want to go, ew, it's more than that, because in this culture, he was unclean, so nobody wants anything to do with him because they all see God as punishing him. Right. So then when he says, who will shake hands with me? Right. He's like, no one's gonna even come near me at this point. Then it says here, for you have hidden their heart from understanding. And so everybody is looking at Job's situation as being because of his wickedness, his supposed wickedness. They don't understand what's really going on, right? Then it says, therefore you will not exalt them. This is kind of pointing forward to what Job sees as what's going to happen to his friends. Job knows that his friends are eventually going to be punished, that his friends are going to have judgment come upon them because of what they're doing. And so then here's an interesting verse. If anybody in here has the regular King James, I think it says something different there, but it actually means the same thing. But here in the New King James, it says, he who speaks flattery to his friends, even the eyes of his children will fail. In the King James, I believe it says he causes his friend to become prey or something like that. Does it say that in yours? No? Oh, you have what I have? You do.
It says, lay down now, put me in a surety with thee. Who is he that will strike hands with me? Which verse did you want?
Verse 5.
Oh, sorry. He that speaketh flattery to his friend.
Oh, okay. So it's the same thing. Okay. So when I was reading some commentaries, the word that is for flattery, it's kind of interesting. It actually it later came to mean prey. And so what's interesting about that is the Hebrew word there, it literally means smoothness. And so we're like, how do you get flattery and prey from that, right? Like prey is in not like prayer, but prey is in like an animal that you would kill. So like to become a prey, So the word there for smoothness, what it was referring to was like smooth stones. And so it means flattery here, but it also means like hunting someone, right? And so it's kind of interesting in the Hebrew, this has that dual meaning there. If you're speaking flattery of your friends, it's like you're hunting them. And so that's what he's getting at here. And so I had to look into that one, but it's kind of interesting. It's, so if if you encounter someone that's kind of blowing smoke and, trying to boast you up, and they're usually out to deceive you or out to get you at some point, right? And so that's what he's saying of his friends here, is that they're speaking flattery of, but then they are out to get him afterwards. And so then it says here at the end of this, so part of this statement is, even the eyes of his children will fail. What this is saying is even his children will look at him with shame, right? Like his children will look down on him. His children will be disappointed in him. And so he's saying that these friends are going to end up having judgment upon them, and they will end up being looked down upon later. So he knows what's coming for them. Because remember, they are getting increasingly twisted in what they're saying, and twisting Job's words around and things like that. And so pretty interesting there. Okay, so verse 6, it says, but he has made me a byword of the people, basically outcast, and I have become one in whose face men spit. And so now, he's pointing out, in whose face what people are spitting on him. Why? You think you would see someone that's suffering and be like, oh, let me help you. They are looking at him and saying, you're suffering because you did something wrong before God. And so you think about kicking a man when he's down. Like that's what this is here. Okay. Then it says, my eye has also grown dim because of sorrow. All my members are like shadows. So my body is just weary from this. Then it says, upright men are astonished at this, and the innocent stirs himself up against the hypocrite. This is the perception that people have of him, right? He would be referring to himself as the hypocrite there. So people are looking at him as the hypocrite. Then it says, yet the righteous will hold to his way, and he who has clean hands will be stronger and stronger. He's also referring to himself there. And so he still sees himself as the righteous. So he says, but despite all this, I am going to hold to the way, right? To my way. Then it says here in verse 10, and this is the pleading. And so he wants all of this to stop. He wants his friends back. He wants the Lord back on his side, and all of this. So it says, but please come back again, all of you, for I shall not find one wise man among you. Right now, his friends are lifting themselves up, exalting themselves, and he's basically saying, you're all dumb, right? And actually, I can say the word here because it says it in the Bible. Bildad will actually point out that Job is calling them stupid. Okay, and that's here. So anyway, it says here, my days are past, my purposes are broken off. Even the thoughts of my heart, they change the night into day. The light is near, they say, in the face of darkness. If I wait for the grave as my house, if I make my bed in the darkness. So this is all going to get better if I die. This will be my relief. Then it says, if I say to corruption, you are my father, and to the worm, you are my mother and my sister, where then is my hope? As for my hope, who can see it? Will they go down to the gates of Sheol? Shall we have rest together in the dust? So basically, remember what he was saying before about looking forward to the time when he would be changed? So what hope would he have if he were just going to stay in the ground and be eaten by the worms and everything? So he has hope in the resurrection. So he's saying, let me die because I'm suffering right now. That way I could just get a ticket to, a fast forward ticket to the resurrection, basically. And so now we're going to see Bildad. And Bildad is, again, just like the previous friend, Eliphaz, is going to twist Job's words around. And his big accusation is that Job is completely wicked. And not just did something wicked in the past, but that Job is currently still wicked before God. And so, and again, they're using this as an opportunity to make themselves look better. And Job, by chapter 19, he's caught on to this, and he'll point it out. He'll call it out. And so Bildad here, it says in Job chapter 18, starting verse 1, it says, then Bildad the Shuhite answered and said, how long till you put an end to words? So Job, be quiet. We're done with you, right? Then he says, gain understanding, and afterward we will speak. So Job, you don't know what you're talking about. Why don't you go learn something, and then we can talk and have a rational conversation. He's saying this to a man that's pleading with God for this to stop. And this is pretty terrible. Now, he's very offended at this point because of some of the things that Job has said. It says here in verse 3, why are we counted as beasts? Right? So Job prior had compared his friends to animals. Okay? And then it says, and regarded as stupid in your sight. So you notice the offense with Eliphaz and with Bildad is that they think that they're smarter than Job, and they want to be considered to be wise. And really, this is a show for them how wise they are against Job. And so this is offensive to them that Job is saying, you're not wise. Okay? Then it says here, you who tear yourself in anger. So Bildad is looking at what Job is doing as Job is being angry against God, when really what Job is doing is he is suffering and he is pleading with God. There's a big difference between anguish and anger, right? Job is in anguish. Job is suffering. Job is mourning over things. He's not angry. That's a different thing. And in the biblical sense of anger is a little bit different than what we would casually use anger today. Anger is a negative, has a negative connotation in the Bible. So then it says here, You who tear yourself in anger, shall the earth be forsaken for you? So this is where I was talking about how Bildad is twisting Job's words. So you remember how Job was talking about how the mountains would crumble and all of this? Bildad is taking what Job said about God being infinite and outlasting everything, and Job just wanting to die and wait for the resurrection when everything was done. Bildad's taking that and saying what Job is really saying is that he wants God to crush mountains for him. That way he could be restored. So basically he's like, Job, you really think God's going to change everything just to fill your whims? Right? So that's the way that Bildad is twisting this here. So shall the earth be forsaken for you, right? Or shall the rock be removed from its place? So are you asking God to move mountains for you, like just so that you could be happy? That's what Bildad is taking what Job said and twisting it. And then verse 5 here. Now we get into Bildad's big sermon on wicked people here. And the pointing out that Job is wicked. It says, the light of the wicked indeed goes out, and the flame of his fire does not shine. The light is dark in his tent, and his lamp beside him is put out. The steps of his strength are shortened, and his own counsel casts him down. So everything that Job is doing, Bildad is saying, is pointing out that he's wicked. Okay? Versus mourning. So then it says, for he is cast into a net by his own feet. So you're caught in your own net, right? You're caught up in your own sin. It says, and he walks into a snare. The net takes him by the heel, and the snare lays hold of him. A noose is hidden for him on the ground, and a trap for him on the road. So Job, by the way you're acting and all of this, you've set your own trap. Your situation is proving that you're a wicked man, right? And how you're responding to the situation is proving that you're a wicked man. So then it says here in verse 11, he continues on this note. It says, terrors frighten him on every side and drive him to his feet. His strength is starved, and destruction is ready at his side. It devours patches of his skin. So pointing out that he's wicked, and they know he's wicked because his skin's all messed up and all of this. He's ready to be destroyed, right? Then it says, the firstborn of death devours his limbs. He is uprooted from the shelter of his tent, and they parade him before the king of terrors. This would be the devil, okay? Then it says, they dwell in his tent, who are none of his. Brimstone is scattered on his dwelling. His roots are dried out below, and his branch withers above. So basically, the fact that everything that Job has been destroyed, this is all references to things that happened to Job, right? So because of Job's suffering, Job is wicked. Then it says here in verse 16, his roots are dried out below, and his branch withers above. The memory of him perishes from the earth, and he has no name among the renowned. So Job has been made nothing. He is driven from light into darkness and chased out of the world. He has neither son nor posterity among his people. He has no inheritors anymore. It says, no, nor any remaining in his dwellings. Those in the west are astonished at his day, and those in the east are frightened. Surely, his conclusion here, and this is a terrible conclusion, right? Surely such are the dwellings of the wicked, and this is the place of him who does not know God. So, not only is Job a sinner, but Job doesn't even know God. That's because of his situation. This is the conclusion that he's coming to, right? This would be like someone that you'd go to someone that's lost everything, and you're like, well, it's because you're a sinner. That, it's because you did something so wicked that God is doing this to you. That's the conclusion that they're coming to. And so Job's response to this, and this is towards the end, my Redeemer lives. This is a pretty, obviously we've all heard this, right? But I've heard this so many times, and I don't think it ever hit me that this actually is in the middle of Job. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful statement. And so imagine in the midst of Job's suffering, in the midst of this emotional roller coaster that he's on, where he's pouring his heart out to God, he time and time again comes to the conclusion that God is still great. And it's such a beautiful thing. And so Job is going to answer Bildad quickly here, and starting in verse 1. It says, "Then Job answered and said, 'How long will you torment my soul and break me in pieces with words?'" So how long are you going to do this to me? You're supposed to be my friends, right? "These 10 times you have reproached me. You are not ashamed that you have wronged me." So his friends, right? He's saying, these 10 times you've come again, you've said all this mean stuff to me. And then it says, "And if indeed I have erred, my error remains with me." And so if he is in this situation because he's done something wrong, then he must still be doing something wrong, right? By their logic. It says, "If indeed you exalt yourselves against me." So Job knows exactly what his friends are doing, right? They're using Job's situation in pointing out that he was once the wise person, right? The one that was close to God, and now he's suffering. And so what are they doing? They're using that situation to lift themselves up and appear wise. And Job knows exactly this is the case. So if indeed you exalt yourselves against me and plead my disgrace against me. So using my suffering as evidence of wrongdoing, right? That says, "Know then," okay, so this is a difficult one, sort of. It says, "Know then that God has wronged me and has surrounded me with his net." And so this might seem like, well, if we use today's language, right, this might seem like Job is accusing God of wrongdoing, what we would think of as wrongdoing. The Hebrew word for wrong literally just means violence. And so he's not saying that God has done something evil here, or what we would consider evil or wrong. He's saying that God has brought violence against him. And this is always a tricky subject, especially in the Old Testament, because the Hebrew words for wrong and evil mean violence and harm, right? So there's other places in the Bible where it talks about how God would do evil on the people of Israel. Does this mean that God is evil in our sense? No, it means God was going to do harm on them. He's going to destroy them, right? And so the Hebrew words are very limited, but the context dictates the meaning there. So what he's saying is I haven't done this to myself. God is doing this to me, okay? And that's what he believes. He's not accusing God of wrongdoing. He's saying God is the one that is doing this. I haven't stepped in my own trap, like you've said. And that's what he says here. It says, "and has surrounded me with his net," right? So what did Bildad say? Bildad said that you've been caught in your own net. And Job is replying with, "No, God is the one that is doing this, and I'm caught in God's net here." Okay? Then it says here, continuing on this, in verse 7, "If I cry out concerning wrong, I am not heard." So if I cry out concerning this violence, I am not heard. "If I cry aloud, there is no justice." So there's not going to be the justice part there. He's saying there's not going to be any trial here. Obviously, he's suffering and he has no idea why. And what follows is Job basically saying, this is all what's happening to me, and I have no idea why God's doing this. God is doing this to me. I don't know why. Then he says, "He has fenced up my way so that I cannot pass. He has set darkness in my paths. He has stripped me of my glory and taken the crown from my head. He breaks me down on every side, and I am gone. My hope he has uprooted like a tree. He has also kindled his wrath against me, and he counts me as one of his enemies." And so what this is saying here is he doesn't understand why he's being counted as an enemy of God. That's his view, right? So then it says, his troops come together and build up their road against me. They encamp all around my tent. And he continues, he has removed my brothers far from me, and my acquaintances are completely estranged from me. So everybody, remember what he was saying before, that people spit in his face, right? So everybody's staying away from him. It says, my relatives have failed, and my close friends have forgotten me. Those who dwell in my house and my maidservants count me as a stranger. I am alien in their sight. I call my servant, but he gives no answer. I beg him with my mouth. My breath is offensive to my wife, and I am repulsive to the children of my own body. This is an implication that he might have other children here, but he's offensive to everyone, right? The very sight of him. Then it says, even young children in general, even young children despise me. I arise, and they speak against me. All my close friends abhor me. By the way, the young children part could be referring to children in general. It also could be him talking about his friends like this, that they're acting like young children, right? They're speaking against him. And then as well as here, all my close friends abhor me, and those whom I love have turned against me. And then he talks about his physical state here. So everybody's turned against him. He's lost everyone. Now he's saying, my bone clings to my skin and to my flesh. So think about someone being skin and bones. He's withering away, right? And I have escaped by the skin of my teeth. Have pity on me. Have pity on me, O you, my friends, for the hand of God has struck me. He's repeating the same thing that he originally wanted his friends to do. He originally wanted his friends to come alongside him and seek God with him. And he accuses them of having no pity before. And now he's begging them, have pity on me. Then he says in verse 22, why do you persecute me as God does? Are you not satisfied, and are not satisfied with my flesh? So instead of taking this opportunity to come alongside and help me, you are making it worse. And you basically, what he's saying is, you can't see the state I'm in. Isn't this enough for you to be satisfied, right? Instead, you have to make it worse. Then he now is going to switch here. He's going to transition to the beautiful part of this. It says, oh, that my words were written. Oh, that they were inscribed in a book. Well, I just let you know, Job, your words were inscribed in a book. So then it says here that they were engraved on a rock with an iron pen and lead forever. And then he says, for I know that my Redeemer lives. So after all of that, he still knows that this is talking about the Messiah. He knows that the Messiah is coming. Right? He says, and he shall stand at last on the earth. So at some point he is going to come. Job is talking about the first coming of the Messiah, of Christ here. And so this is awesome. And then he continues, after all of this, where is his hope, right? Before he was talking about he has no hope if the worms are eating his flesh and all of that. If he dies and just stays in the ground, he has no hope. But he does have hope. Why? Because he says, and after my skin is destroyed, this I know, that that in my flesh I shall see God. Yeah. So at some point, Job knows that in his flesh, with a body, he is going to see God. He's looking forward to the resurrection. Then it says, whom I shall see for myself. This is why Job is okay with dying, right? He's suffering in life, but he's okay with dying. Why? Because he knows what comes after, what comes later, right? He says, whom I shall see for myself, and my eyes shall behold, and not another. How my heart yearns within me. If you should say, How shall we persecute him, since the root of the matter is found in me? Talking about Bildad's words there. He says, be afraid of the sword for yourselves, for wrath brings the punishment of the sword, that you may know that there is a judgment. And so Job is saying, what I have to look forward to is standing before God. I know that I'm going to see God someday. I know that I'm righteous before God, but you guys aren't. I'm going to stand. Job is saying, I'm going to stand before God and I'm going to be happy. They're going to stand before God and they're going to face judgment. And so that's what Job knows is coming. That's why he can still get through all of this. And even in these ups and downs on this emotional roller coaster where he's pleading with God and he's begging and he's complaining and all of this, he can still switch and point to God and say, my Redeemer lives. And I look forward to the day when I see him. What an awesome thing. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out.